Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Lauren here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Boris, and he's selling his Amazon FBA and e-commerce business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Welcome to the show, Boris. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about your business. But before we dive in, I'm going to go over a brief summary of the business. This is an Amazon FBA and e-commerce business. It was created in October 2016, and it's in the bed and bath, personal care, and beauty niches. The average monthly revenue for the business is $70,979, and it makes an average of $8,551 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 58144 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. The assets included with the business are an Amazon Central Seller account with 12 SKUs, a domain and all site content and files, a trademark, supplier relationships, Facebook and Instagram social media accounts, an email list with 12,000 subscribers, employee contracts, freight forwarder account, a 3PL account, an ad account and pixels for Facebook and Google, and software integrations. Please note that inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to active buyers. So now that we know more about the business we're going to be talking about, let's hear from the seller. Boris, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Absolutely. So I've been building and running online businesses for about 14 years now. I actually started right out of college. I finished a finance degree and decided I should start my own SEO business. And so I was doing SEO for a while, and then I kind of pivoted my career into a media buying startup. So I essentially learned how to do organic traffic online, and then I learned how to do paid traffic online. And after that, I was actually headhunted by an agency that was rapidly growing, and they kind of wanted my skill set at that time. So I was able to grow a portfolio of 220 clients under my name personally within 6 months with that company. And so what that allowed me to see was under the hood of over 200 clients and how their business operates, and then advise them on, how to grow it online and what tactics and strategies to use. Having gained all those skill sets, what became more apparent to me that I wanted to do was join smaller startups, get an equity stake in them that had really cool products, or, they had a really unique business that I thought could do well in terms of a marketing angle. So I would join them as either a CMO or a CRO, get some equity and a salary. And, it was kind of like a longer term play for me. While I was doing that, I got a call from my friends, and we were talking about me starting my own e-commerce business, since I had so much knowledge about how to run online businesses at this point. And a lot of my clients were physical goods e-commerce businesses. And that's kind of how the journey began into me starting my business that I'm selling with Empire Flippers, and my background in everything I've experienced and seen under the hood in running an online business.
Wow. Yeah, it certainly sounds like you've got a lot of experience under your belt. You've run the gambit of, as you say, from sort of SEO all the way through to e-commerce. Why did you choose these particular products to sell?
Yeah, it was kind of happenstance, very random. It wasn't my idea, essentially. My friends that called me, I didn't have a particular business that I owned. I just had equity stakes in other businesses. And, I was helping a lot of other people, essentially consulting and getting upside on those. But they said, why don't you try your own business? And they were traveling a little bit together, and they were telling me how, in the bed bath and beyond space, let's say, there was a lot of things online that were very old companies, and those companies didn't really know what they're doing. Like, their major play was retail. And so their online listings were very poor. Their websites were made in the 90s, it looked like. And their presence on Amazon and a Walmart online was one image, and that was it. Just the brand name was selling it, right? And so they told me, we think there's a big pocket of opportunity here. And so it started off as a half joke or almost like a dare, where it was like, we think you should launch something in the space. So I just said, you know what, why not? It can be like a cool side hustle for me. I know I'm busy, but if it doesn't have to take all of my time, then I can do it. And so I started contacting manufacturers all over the world. I ended up going with my first product was from China, and I put that on the marketplace on Amazon, and it was profitable from that first day. So it just kind of naturally progressed there because, as soon as you got momentum in the beginning, there was no point in stopping it. And then it didn't end up being like a passive thing. I had to work on it quite a bit as much as I thought I could just get away with not doing so, even with my background of opportunity. And that's really how it started, honest truth.
That's a fantastic story, especially, that it's basically started as a dare. It sounds like a lot of thought went into the business and you certainly experienced a lot of success with it. What are the reasons that you're selling it now?
So I have actually exited all my positions and the other startups I was part of. I do like only maybe high level consulting for them once in a while. But I founded a new biotech company, and that's where my passion is. That's where I want to operate inside of a business hemisphere. And we're going the whole VC route. So it's going to be 10 to 12 hour days, at least for me, just on that business alone. And I'm at a point where this current one, even if it's taking 4 hours a week, it's still 4 hours a week I don't have. So I do want to let it go and let somebody else grow it and run it.
Yes, sounds like you've got some exciting times ahead of you. Is there anything that you learned from this business that you would apply to this future business that you're working on?
Yeah, I learned a lot, and it comes down to, I think the number one thing is always focusing on how do you position your brand and how do you position the products to stand out, right? Because anybody can source a product. And I think people overthink how much differentiation you really need and how important the positioning of the brand is to people's eyes. So everyone can have the same product, but there's a reason, a handful of people usually win inside the marketplace. So I would say, people who ignore brand positioning and how the products are viewed by customers is actually a very important part to business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic point. As you say, it's amazing how often sellers get in their own way when it comes to e-commerce.
Absolutely.
So on the flip side of the coin, since this was your first venture into the world of e-commerce, I'm sure there were some things that didn't quite work out as planned. If you had to go back and start this business again, is there anything that you would do differently a second time around?
Yeah, I think what I tried to do was I tried to launch things that I liked personally versus launch things that had demand, right? So I'm a creative guy, I'm a creator, so I like to create. But I think to streamline this business, and had I done it differently, I would have just looked more in terms of what's the actual demand and can I get that supply for that demand, and then have it grow even faster and larger versus there were a few products I tested because I liked them, but not necessarily, the demand wasn't as high as something else, right? So the opportunity cost, I wouldn't say great because we still had a lot of success with the business, but I think we could have grown it faster and more robustly throughout the years had I focused more on making sure that I nailed that demand fit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because you're a background in SEO and, paid search, can you walk me through what you did in terms of marketing for this business and where most of your traffic came from?
For sure. In the beginning, it started mostly on Amazon. And the reason that was because doing too many things at once, I don't think is a good thing. So once we were getting traction on Amazon, we just kept launching a product on Amazon and trying to grow the listings revenue on Amazon. However, the last 2 years or so, maybe 2.5, we have expanded to Shopify as well. And the way we grew it on Amazon was essentially, through PPC and listing optimization and finding a good product to market fit. And that would work really well. And then we wanted to kind of expand the business so that, I was thinking about if somebody acquires it, how do I get more upside? And also, how do we protect the business, from a single source of sales channels? Because I had so much experience with paid media, the fastest way for me to test, going outside of Amazon was using Facebook ads to drive to a sales funnel or to our store on Shopify and see if it worked. And it ended up being, out of a bunch of products that we tested, one was kind of really the hit. And so we kind of use that product to funnel people into the brand now through ads on Facebook and Instagram, and then email them on the back end that we have other products as upsells. So the two main ways were really Amazon PPC and Facebook marketing.
Okay, wonderful. What are some of the ways that you would try and grow the business further if you were to keep it?
There's actually quite a few. And I would say the first one would be our SKUs. We would expand, the quantities of them, or, it could be like different color, different flavors. People ask for those things because everyone's preference is different. So I think naturally quantities, colors, and variations on certain products, we already know customers want those. So that's an easy implementation because we just tell the manufacturer to make that, product different. And then SKU expansion would be, I think, the next thing as a low-hanging fruit, because we have analytics now that shows us, even Amazon shows you now, when somebody buys X product, 10% of them buy this other product that's complementary to yours. So you don't actually have to guess as much as you used to, because we have now analytics that shows us what people are buying on top of your products. And then the third thing I would do is do an international expansion. This used to be much harder back in the day to set up Amazon stores across Europe and then in Japan and then Australia and all that stuff. It's much easier now. They've made programs where they kind of on-ramp you and help you out through that process. And there's specific business entities now that kind of walk you through that process. We also get a lot of sales through Amazon.com internationally. So we already know which products we would probably expand first internationally as a test. And then the fourth thing, and I think this has a lot of upside, is we never really focused on SEO because I didn't want to spend time on creating content. I was trying to just get the sales through, paid media. But I think that's a massive opportunity for the business, because if there was content and SEO optimization around the store, and you could even do it on Amazon, I think it's a great long-term play to gain consistent income. And like I said on this call earlier, a lot of the guys that you were competing with are old school retail heavy focused brands. So their online presence is not very good and their SEO is not very good. So I do feel like there's an extraordinary amount of upside there. And then the fifth thing is, I think we do an okay job with upselling people when they get into their brand, when we acquire customers. But I think there's a lot of work there on those sales funnels, and we don't have a strong email strategy. Like, we email on bigger holidays. But for other brands, when we've implemented email strategy, we're emailing 3 to 4 times a week with content, value adds, and that really helps boost the sales. So I would say those are the areas that I would focus on. And I guess it would depend on whoever's skill set fits one of those areas more. I would start with that.
Yeah, certainly. And it definitely sounds like there's a lot of potential there. So I think those points would have definitely piqued buyers' interest. So you sell your products through Amazon, and then you also have a Shopify account as well. So can you walk me through your supply chain? Where are your suppliers based? And then how does inventory get from the suppliers to Amazon and to Shopify?
Absolutely. So right now, all of our suppliers are in China. We used to have some US, but we've discontinued some products, and those were the US ones. So the supply chain works as follows. We ordered inventory in China, and then we let our freight forwarders know that we've ordered that inventory. Depending on the lead times, some are 30 days, some are 50 plus days lead times in China. They put on a boat. That boat goes to California. And then from California and Los Angeles port, the goods either go to Amazon if we've allocated a shipment to Amazon FBA warehousing, or that shipment goes to our 3PL partners, who are also in California. Then those are warehoused in our own 3PL partner warehouse. And so if the sales are coming from Shopify, they're fulfilled by our 3PL warehouse fulfillment center. And obviously, if the sales come in from Amazon, then they're fulfilled from the Amazon FBA part of the inventory of the supply chain.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it sounds like a fairly streamlined process there. You mentioned before that this business took up more time than you initially thought it would. Can you walk me through how many hours per week you actually spend on the business and what sort of tasks take up your time?
For sure. Right now, I probably spend maybe 4 hours a week on it because I have streamlined it so much. And those hours are mostly spent on things like ordering inventory because I still control the money, checking the advertising just to make sure nothing broke, nothing's down, nothing's going haywire. And then the last thing that I do is if we have a full-time personal assistant working in the business, so she might flag something once in a while that she doesn't know how to answer or she doesn't know how to handle. But that's really it. It's mostly just paying attention to it, tweaking the advertising budgets here or there, depending on the season or the week or if something's happening, and then making sure we have enough inventory and the supply chain is working properly and reordering at the right time.
Wonderful. Yeah. I mean, I think, with a business like this where it's Amazon as well as Shopify, for you to trim that down to 4 hours a week is pretty impressive. So kudos to you there.
Thank you.
For someone who's not familiar with this particular business model or perhaps these products within this niche, what skills or requirements would you say are needed to run this business successfully?
Even if you don't know the niche is not that big of a problem because I didn't know the niche myself either. It was more understanding marketing, positioning, and how the sales channels operate. So if somebody understood how Amazon works, how their algorithm works, how their rankings work, and how to optimize a listing, I think that's a very valuable skill to have. Alternatively, if they have some paid media experience or if they have SEO or content marketing experience, I think that's a massive, massive upside for the Shopify end of the store. So I think if they have marketing experience and they understand how to drive sales volume, that would be kind of, I would say, the biggest benefit of getting into this business versus an expert in the products themselves.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I fully agree with you there. What would you say are the biggest risks with this business that buyers should be aware of?
I think the biggest risk, and this is something we experienced on a couple of products, is we launch them and then they're doing well. And then you get a ton of copycats come in. And sometimes it's manufacturers who undercut the price ridiculously. So that's why I was saying if you position the brand a certain way, it actually helps a lot in retaining those sales because the copycats just compete on price. And they'll get sales because they're cheap, right? Like the cheaper they can get it, obviously, and if it's quality, they're going to go for it. But they also will buy if they see a brand that's already established, that has a differentiator, that worked on the packaging, like all of those small details matter. But, you always have a risk of competitors, especially suppliers from China, undercutting the prices and coming into the marketplaces that you're selling in.
Yeah, that's very true. You certainly have a lot of knowledge about this business that I think would be quite invaluable to buyers. How much support are you willing to offer the buyer to help ease that transition?
I think it would depend on what the buyer needs. I'm willing to put in the time and effort to make sure that when I do transfer the business, the buyer is set up for success. So if there's a standard amount of time that they would like me to commit to, if it's, unless it's like a ridiculous amount of time every single day for 3 months, for example, that I probably couldn't accommodate that. But, if they needed a lot of time in that first month in a transitionary period, I understand. And then whatever we felt like they still needed after that month, I would be open to listening to. And, I want them set up for success. And whatever I can do to help that, I'm willing to listen.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's certainly going to set a lot of buyers at ease. When it comes to the actual sale of the business, would you be open to negotiating something like an earnout?
I would be open to an earnout, I think primarily though on the inventory. So if the buyers wanted to put a note on the inventory, for example, so that they're cash flowing the inventory and then paying it back, I'd be open to that. I would prefer though on the business sale itself to be just a straight sale because I am tied up with other things and it'd just be cleaner for me to be done with it like that.
Yeah. And would you be willing to commit to a non-compete agreement?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So is there any advice that you would give to our listeners that you wish you knew when you first started out in the online business world?
Yeah, I think the best advice is, focus and execute on the strategies for yourself because, notoriously opportunity is very abundant these days and there's always going to be a new method to marketing or a new platform or a new product that everyone's talking about. But honestly, if you're just focusing on one thing and you're doing that really well and you're consistent with it, that's where all the success has come from in everything that I've done. So it's like consistency always beat shiny object syndrome is what I say. And if something's working, don't try to innovate on top of it if it's working. So just keep going.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. So the final question of the interview, and perhaps most the important one, is if you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
Yeah, so if I was a buyer, the way I would look at it is I'm putting in, only about 4 hours a week to maintain its current form and revenue and profit. And I've listed a lot of different areas it could expand. So if somebody really wanted to grow this even aggressively within the next year, I truly feel the market and the products that we have a lot of room to grow. So I think if somebody's motivated to buy a business and grow it and they want to make sure that demand is there, I haven't seen any metrics that proves that wrong at this point.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like a business with a lot of potential. And I wish you all the best of luck with the sale of the business.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience that I might have missed?
Wasn't expecting this one, but yeah, I think I always say it's good to go for what you want and you can always change course later. So listen to the gut and it'll serve you well.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time, Boris. It's been really great talking to you and learning more about your business.
Thank you. And thanks for having me and appreciate everyone listening.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 58144. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.